2017, I got really sick. I had bronchitis for about a month, and I'm a mom. I had a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so as a mom, I just kept trekking along and just kept pushing through. Didn't really pay much attention to it, just expected my body to bounce back like it always does. And I was expecting to just be well. I had paid for a creative conference and I was super excited about it. I was looking forward to it. So there was nothing that was going to keep me from going to that thing. So I went. I didn't know I had bronchitis. I just couldn't breathe. I just was coughing and really, really struggling to breathe. I got in the car and my friend handed me her inhaler and said, "You need this. I don't think you're doing very well." And I was just like, "An inhaler? Like, I don't understand." And so anyway, I ended up using the inhaler throughout the weekend, throughout the conference, and just really pressing in for my healing. Just, it was kind of, I'm away from my kids, I'm away from my home. So I could just kind of breathe a little bit and kind of focus on how am I really doing. The conference was a creative conference, so it was all about kingdom creativity and God encountering us through creativity and how we can use creativity to encounter the world and show the world Jesus. And so I really pressed in and I was like, "God, like, I don't know what's going on with my lungs, but you got to heal me." During one of the worship sessions, I began to draw a picture of my lungs. They were singing a song and it was Yahweh, 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 the air in my lungs. And so I was like, "Okay, Yahweh, you're the air in my lungs, and I'm believing for healing. So in Jesus' name, I'm healed and I receive it." And I really did feel God's presence come over me in that moment. And I really believe that he healed me at that moment, at that time. There was different things that happened along the way in that conference that just kind of solidified, like, I'm going to be okay. And so I went to the conference and I did all the things and it was amazing. And I came home and I just wasn't feeling amazing that week. I went to the doctor and they said, "You've got bronchitis." So by the time I got the medicine, it was 1 or 2 nights before I took my crash and I stopped breathing. I was in my home and I was just worshiping. I felt like God told me to go get my biggest canvas I was scared to use. And he was like, "Go get your biggest canvas and I just want you to dance and worship and pray and just be with me. Just be with me." And so I grabbed my canvas and I grabbed my paint and I set it up in my kitchen. And mind you, I couldn't breathe. Like, I was really, really struggling to breathe. But I was like, I'm putting all of me into this. I'm going to dance. I'm going to war for my health. I'm going to break through. I already know God healed me. He gave me his promise. I know I'm going to be fine. And so I pushed through and I began to paint just kind of as I felt God was leading me. I put purple on my canvas and green and red. And then I painted this gold feather. And after I got done painting it, I felt like God kind of told me what the colors meant and what the feather meant. The purple was nobody messes with my daughter. And so it felt like that protection. Green felt like it was new life. It was new beginnings. It was a promise for hope for the future, that this wasn't the end. And then red was a symbol of his blood, that he already healed me, that I'm already walking in that. So I really felt confident in that. And then the feather was just that reminder that I get to fly in this life. I'm not weighed down and burdened by anything, but that I get to fly with him and I get to be with him. And so it just felt like hope and freedom and peace and life. And so I finished my painting. I was on all fours in order to breathe, hands and feet and knees in order to breathe. And I was just like, "God, I don't know what to do." I really felt his presence with me. I just felt completely enveloped, completely safe. Fear would have loved me to be just absolutely terrified and out of my mind. But I was just like, I'm going to be okay because God already promised that I'm going to be okay. We had scheduled a camping trip for that night, for that weekend, with some friends. And so my husband and my kids were camping. I was alone in the home. I told him, I was like, I'm not going to be able to lay down to go camping. You just take the kids, you go play, you go have fun. I'm going to rest. I just really need rest. Around 2:00 in the morning, I kind of realized that this was serious and that I probably needed to give him a call, but I didn't want to call him at 2:00 in the morning. So I waited until 4:00 in the morning just to give him a little bit more sleep. And so I call him and I'm like, "Hey, I think you should probably come home." He was about an hour away. So he got home, and at about 6 a.m, he looked at me and he goes, "I don't think you're doing very well." And I was like, "I don't think I am either." So he's like, "I think I need to take you to the ER." And I'm like, "Really? Do you think so?" "I don't know. I mean, I guess, yeah, let's go to the ER. I was just so like, I've never been to the ER. I've never had anything like that happen to me before. So I didn't really understand the magnitude of what was really happening. I just knew that I was struggling to breathe, and I felt safer that my husband was home. So he put me in the car and drove me to the ER. And the last thing that I remember is them telling me, "I need you to sit on the bed. I need you to sit up tall so we can take an x-ray of your chest." And I was like, if I sit up on that bed, I'm going to die. I remember pounding my fist in the bed and just going, "I can't do this. I can't sit up. I can't do what you're telling me to do." And then I woke up in the ICU. They had to put me into an induced coma and intubate me. I stopped breathing. My lungs were full of oxygen, but they would not release the carbon dioxide. So I suffocated from the inside. When I woke up, I was just full of gratitude. I was like, "God, you saved me. You saved me. You did it. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm well. I made it." Like, I'm a champion. Like, I got this. I mean, obviously I was coming out of intubation and a coma, so I wasn't like super fiery but in my spirit, just was so full of life and so full of hope and so full of his presence. It felt like a second chance. It honestly kind of felt like the batteries, you do the jolt to the chest and it jolts that person back to life. It felt like I got a recharge, like a new charge. And I was just like, with this second chance, I am living full out from here on out. I am just all in because life is too short. And I just really felt that in my spirit. But as I progressed, as I got out of the hospital and realized the state and condition of my body, I became really depressed. I was just like, God, it would have been better if I would have just died. And then my kids wouldn't have to see me in this state. My husband wouldn't have to do everything for me and everything for the kids and work his full-time job. And I mean, it was so overwhelming. And I was like, why why am I still here? Like, at least if I wouldn't have been here, he could have remarried and my kids would have had a happy, mommy, and he would have a happy wife and not a vegetable. Because I just really was in a state of mind that, I mean, I would stare at a wall and not realize that a day had gone by. I just wasn't well mentally. And I physically had no strength at that point. And so I started battling anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety. I just would have these breathing attacks where I'm like, it's happening all over again. I'm suffocating. I was so in my head, so overwhelmed with just surviving, that listening to my kids giggle in the living room would just set me off. And I'm like, it's too much noise, and I would just get so just instantly frustrated. And I just wanted them to be quiet. I wanted everything to be quiet and calm, because I was so anxious and I was on the edge of a panic attack constantly. At one point I was at work. I had gotten a job and I was doing my best. I was trying so hard. And I called my husband and I said, "Hey, I'm not breathing again. I need you to come pick me up. I need you to take me to the ER." And so we went. And the doctors did all these tests on me. They hooked me up to all kinds of things. They measured everything and they're like, you're perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with your heart. Nothing's wrong with your lungs. Nothing's wrong with any part of you. I sat on that hospital bed and I looked the doctor straight in the eyes and I said, "Is this anxiety? Is this panic?" And he was like, "Yes, you're dealing with panic. Panic and anxiety manifest as breathing issues commonly." And I was like, oh my gosh. So just a little bit of backstory about panic and anxiety. When I would hear people talk about panic and anxiety, I would kind of had this scoff in my heart about it. Just like, mind over matter. Just don't let it affect you. Just move on. It was very, very harsh. I didn't understand it. I didn't know that you couldn't mind over matter it, that you couldn't just turn it off. So when that doctor told me that I was dealing with panic and anxiety, it was so humbling. But then it was like, wait a minute, I can't control this. Like, this is something that comes on me and I'm incapacitated. What do I do with that? I've always been able to mind over matter. I've always been able to power my way through because I'm a strong woman and I can do stuff. So it just was like such a humbling and hard news to hear that I was dealing with something that was so external. I really started pressing in. I was like, God, you're the only one that can deliver me from this anxiety. You're the only one that can deliver me from these panic attacks. You're the only one that can soothe my heart and help me be a good mom and help me be a good wife. And you're the only one that can revive me back to life instead of this vegetable state. You're the only one that can pull me out of this depression and give me hope. You've got to do this. I have no ability, none whatsoever. I can't do this. I can't do this. I remember one day I was sitting in a chair and I looked down at my feet, as I often did because I was heavily depressed and dealing with just trying to survive. And I felt like God told me, I want you to go to the craft store. I want you to buy some craft shoes and some paint. And I want you to paint hope words onto these shoes. And so I grabbed the materials and I painted courage. I painted healthy. I painted vibrant. I painted all of these words that I felt like God was giving me to declare over my life that it's not the end. It's the beginning of a new beginning. It's the beginning of something different. I had to grieve the me that was before. I had to grieve that person. I really had to let her go and realize that this new me was the me that we had. And I wanted to be the best new me that I could be. I wanted to be the best wife that I could be and the best mom that I could be. And so I really dug in deep with God, and through a series of time and just journaling with him and creating in his presence and just really getting it out, I began to paint shoes for other people. And my little company was born, and I was able to paint other people's shoes and give them hope and give them encouragement. It was one of those things that got me out. It got me to stop looking at my situation and to stop looking at my circumstances and look at somebody else and go, I have something to give. I still have something in me. Like there's more. There's so much more that I can give, and I can give hope, and I can give encouragement, and I can give love. And even though I might not be fully feeling it yet, I know I'm moving forward, and I know I'm making progress. And this journey, it might be a long journey, but it's happening, and I'm on it, and I'm full in. One of the things that he gave me was to learn to respond instead of reacting. So in those moments where I would have a panic attack, or I would be completely overwhelmed with, anxiety, or just in my head, just trying to survive, he taught me, he's like, don't react, because a reaction is just that sharp, quick, your nature, it's just, it's that spastic response. And he's like, I want you to pause and I want you to respond. And so that was the other part, was find him in the pause. And so I got really good at feeling like anxiety is coming on. Okay, I'm going to find you in the pause. I'm going to check my body. Where's my body? Where's my head? Where's my, how's everything going? And then I would breathe. I would find him in that pause. And then I was able to respond. Over time, the kids would see me start to kind of breathe and get stiff in my body. And I would communicate to them. I'd go, feeling anxiety, just let me breathe. Mommy's okay. I'm just going to find Jesus and I'm going to be okay. And so now I'm completely delivered from anxiety and panic attacks. I don't have them anymore. I don't deal with them. The last one that I had was actually at the dentist's office. I just prayed and I said, Jesus, I know you're with me and I'm tired of these, and I just give it all to you. And I, for the first time, didn't just silently cry through a dentist appointment, just because of the panic that would hit me of being stuck in a chair in a position where it didn't feel like I could breathe very well. It was so scary. It was at that time that I realized, I'm free. I do art classes and one-on-one art therapy classes and different things like that to just really activate those gifts inside of people and bring out that creativity and bring healing to people. And so it's just such a gift to have walked through all of those things and to be able to pull people in now. That's my story.